Hey everybody, and welcome to Megaphone. This is an overview of the platform, and I'm really excited about this, you guys. I've been using Megaphone for a while. Usually Megaphone is not available to independent podcasters that aren't willing to shell out an arm and a leg for this system. And so they've made it available to our network at a really reasonable price. And I am so excited to share with you all the cool things about Megaphone because I really think it can transform your podcast. And so let's get started. This is the main login page. So when you get your email and you create your password, I would bookmark this page because you're going to be coming back to it quite often. So we're going to log in. The first page it's going to take us to is our dashboard. This is your podcast at a glance. My page is going to look a little bit different than yours because I have several shows that are part of my account. These are all the shows that I'm currently managing, but you may only have one or two shows, and that's completely fine. But the layout is still the same. So let's go through this pretty quickly. Let's look at the boxes here at the top. This is going to give you a snapshot of all of the podcasts that you represent that are part of your account, your yearly downloads. It's going to tell you how many shows that you have access to. It's going to give you your monthly downloads, which is really helpful. And I also like this number here. I'm not really keen on that number for the month. We're actually down 21% compared to the last 30 days. So that's not really where you really want to be, but this is very helpful information. And it also tells us how many more days in the month that we have. So if we're trying to get this number up, this information is helpful, right? Your live orders. This is regarding any promos or campaigns, any advertising campaigns that you're running, and it's going to tell you how many live orders that are currently going out to your audience. So add a snapshot. There you go. Your latest episode, and it's going to tell you when it was published and who published it. You do have the ability to have multiple users as part of your account. You can't create them. I would need to create them for you. So if that's something that's important, you have a producer, you've got an editor, other people that, you don't want to give out your email, your password information, just let me know and I will set this up. But this is helpful because it lets you know who's working on what and when, and for example, when this episode published. Helpful information. These two boxes here are important. This is all about your podcast. This is all about your episodes over here. So again, everything on this page is pretty much looking at the last 30 days. And because I represent 6 shows, they're only going to show 5 for these colors, okay? But it's got a nice little graph here that I can take a quick look. It's going to show me my total downloads for these podcasts, and I can export the list if I want. It's also going to show me the listeners, and this is based on device. Is it 100% accurate? I'm not sure about that. Usually we don't really need to know how many listeners. We are, as far as advertisers are concerned, we're more interested in your total number of downloads, not necessarily your listeners, but it's still helpful to have that information. And over here, the episode section is very similar, but it's going to bring up your top 5, and then it looks like it goes a little bit further to a top 10 down here. But as far as our graph up here is concerned, it's going to give the top 5 episodes over the last 30 days. And again, that's across all of the episodes you have access to. Okay, so this is your dashboard. And over here, these are the main tabs that we're going to go over in this video really quick. I'm going to do separate videos on each of these where we do more of a deep dive, and I show you how each of these tabs can really help you and your podcast. But right now, we're just trying to get the lay of the land, right? So this is the dashboard. Next, let's go to the podcast section. And again, this page is going to look a little different for you if you only have one podcast. Then you're only going to have, one entry here. But this is a helpful page anytime you are going to be uploading new episodes or scheduling your ad location markers so you can run ads at another time. This is the tab that you're going to be using, the podcast page. I do want to point out you have the ability to import an RSS feed. So let's say you're going to be taking on another show, managing another show, or you have another podcast that's on another podcast host platform and you decide to bring that over to Megaphone as well. You could use this import button. It's going to ask you for the feed and whatever the name of your network is, which is going to be the default anyways. And you can go ahead and you can import a podcast from their RSS feed. When you guys came, if you already had a podcast when you came over to Megaphone, this is essentially the process I used to bring your shows over to Megaphone. Now, for those of you who didn't have a podcast, you were starting from scratch, this is the method I used where you can create a podcast from scratch. So you can just click this button and you can go ahead and create a podcast from scratch. I do ask, though, that if you decide to bring over another show or create a new show, you give me a heads up, because it does impact us on the back end for billing and our accounting purposes. So just let me know, and it's totally fine for you to do that, and we can work that out at that time. As far as how you use this page, when you want to add episodes and schedule those ad markers, you basically just click on whatever podcast you want to add that to. We're not going to do that at this point, but that's how easy it is, right? You're going to do all this from the podcast section. I do think it's helpful, though, just at a snapshot. Obviously, you can see the name of the podcast, the artwork, how many episodes each of those podcasts have, the category. Of course, you could have multiple categories that these shows are part of, but I do think it's helpful. Now, if you have a ton of podcasts that are part of your Megaphone account, you may want to use these filters. For me, I'm only managing 6, so I can pretty much see all my shows from here. But let's say you had 106. You may want to be able to type in here and find a podcast really quickly. All right, so that's the podcast section. We're going to go down here to campaigns. This is where you make your money, guys. This is where you run your ad campaigns. And you can see here, I do have a couple of campaigns that I've set up for my account. One's for Pampers, one's for Up a Baby. You can see some basic information from this, right? You can see the name of the advertiser. You can see when the ad is scheduled to run. Again, this is a little bit redundant, but here's the name of the advertiser and what the whole campaign, how much money is set to bring in with the whole campaign. The amount of orders are the amount of, sometimes it's called flights. I'll click on one of these really quick. I don't want to talk about this too much because we're going to do a whole video on it. But you can see here, even though these are both for Preggy Pals, these are 2 separate flights, or they're called orders too. Those terms are used interchangeably. So back here on the main page, you could see this had a 2 because I had 2 different orders. Likewise, if you click on this, it says 1 over here, and there's only 1 order in here, okay? So that's basically the campaigns. We'll go into more detail in another video, but if you wanted to click a campaign, it all starts right there, okay? Let's talk a little bit about promos. I love promos. I think this is something that is highly underused, and we should use it a lot more. Campaigns and promos are very similar, but if you forget, here's a good reminder up here at the top. Promos work like orders. Remember, orders were under campaigns, but they will never be played when an ad competes for the same slot. So the way Megaphone does this, right? You've got your episode, and in your episode, you have your various ad markers where something could be inserted. It could be a campaign, right, where an advertiser is paying you money, or perhaps, you're running something to promote a service of your own. That would be a campaign. A promo is something that doesn't necessarily have to run, but you might as well use up your inventory, which we're going to talk about inventory in just a second. So the way Megaphone prioritizes it is your campaigns. It puts the most priority on your campaigns because it wants you to make money. That's what this whole system is about. How do you make money with your show? And so it's going to prioritize those. Then if you guys are part of the Megaphone targeted marketplace where Megaphone sells ads for you, then it will default to the MTM ads. And then if no MTM ad is available, then it will go to promos because it never wants a promo to run, which is something for free basically, right? It never wants that to run when you could be making money. somehow, whether it's through your own campaign or something that's part of the Megaphone targeted marketplace. But this is where you would schedule your promos. What kind of promos can you run? Well, I mean, really, the sky is the limit. Let me show you just real quickly. You can see some of the things that I've done here. Like I said, I represent several shows. I work on several shows. This happens to be an ad. Ad probably isn't the best term. It's a promo that I decided to do at the time of this recording, as when we're going through the coronavirus scare and pandemic that has swept across the entire world. And I love the idea of being able to get a message out across your entire audience, regardless of whatever episode they're listening to. So the way I've set this up is it's a nice little message of encouragement to say, hey, we're in this with you. We wish the best for you and your family. I actually have this scheduled as a pre-roll to run. And so that's what you're looking at here. That's one example of what you can do as a promo. You can promote the fact that you've got a brand new Instagram account. You can promote the fact that you've got a brand new book coming out or a course or whatever it is that you want to promote. But those are some examples of things you can run as promos. Just know that as far as the hierarchy and what Megaphone prioritizes, promos are at the bottom. But if you have the inventory available, that's great. You need to use up the inventory. And speaking of inventory, we are going to move on to this tab, which is inventory. When you first come to this page, it looks pretty blank. You do have to select between your shows up here to see what your inventory might look like. Now, let me tell you that with your inventory, it's going to be very important that you schedule episodes in draft mode in order to see anything here. And in the inventory video, we're going to go more in depth. Just know when you're first checking all this out, if you go and you click on your show and nothing shows up, like let me show you an example. I think nothing's going to show up. Okay, so this is a Christmas show that I do with Santa Claus. I have not scheduled any episodes in draft mode, therefore I click this and nothing shows up. Really quickly, let me show you an example of something that will show up. Okay, now this is my show Newbies, and I have scheduled my draft episodes out for the entire year. So you can see this is my entire inventory, and you can see that I do have some advertisers scheduled here. Again, I don't want to go too much in depth here, but just know that this is where it's basically a snapshot of your inventory available, and so you know what you have to still sell and what you've already sold for your show. So that's inventory. And reports. So we all love to know how many people are listening to our show, where are they listening from, and what are they listening on. That's what all of this is right here. These are your downloads, okay? You can also look at your inventory, just like we were doing over there. You can look at your inventory really quickly as well. So in this case, I was looking up, I was looking up Newbies. Let's see. Okay, so this is more, it's not as pretty as the inventory page over here, but this will tell you, how much inventory you have available, your percentage sold, and your percent available. So if you want to see it in that kind of format, you can certainly do that. I'm going to go back to the report tab here. So that's what this was over here. I don't use it that much. I think the inventory tab is much prettier, but I don't know. If you're a numbers person and you just want the numbers, there you go. I want to show you this really quickly, okay? So this is a new view that Megaphone has come up with. It's really nice and pretty. It's a snapshot. I kind of view this as your dashboard for your reports. If you really want to break things down, I feel like these are more, instead of having a dashboard view, these are more report focused. Let me give you an example. So I just clicked on performance. Performance is the amount of people that are listening to your show. And you could do you could do podcasts or episodes, okay? I'm just going to do for a single podcast. So I'm going to select the podcast up here. You can select the date. It automatically will default to the last 30 days. You click run. You get this nice little graph up here, and this breaks it down according to each day. So that's kind of helpful. You can also come over here and you can compare. So if you have multiple shows, you can go through and you can compare and see some different things. And I'll get more into that when we talk about reports. But that's it. Yeah. So you can do this according to podcasts, according to episodes, and according to your orders, right? So your campaigns and promos that you're running. All right, let's go back to the dashboard here. The last couple things that I wanted to mention here is your account settings, right? So your settings right here, if you want to change some stuff. The Help Center for Megaphone is extremely helpful. They've got some great articles, and I link to a lot of that stuff on the Independent Podcast Network site. So, I've tried to simplify that for you so you guys don't have to go through all the stuff. I picked out the good stuff for you. Over here, now this is really important to know, and this is how you get in touch with the Megaphone support team. And you can tell there's a handful of people that handle support, and they're all amazing, right? I'm not sure what their hours are. They seem to kind of change their hours, but I believe it's like a 12-hour period, and most of their people are on East Coast time. But if you're recording or you're trying to get something done Monday through Friday, usually I can get in touch with someone immediately. I just click this new conversation. I come down here and type a message, and usually they respond within 5 minutes. And if you guys have worked with other podcast host providers, that is pretty much insane. Sometimes it can be really tough to get a hold of support. But I know these guys. I see these guys at the podcast conferences that I go to, and they're real people. I promise you. They get back to you right away, and it just makes for a really good experience. Okay, guys, so that's really an overview of Megaphone. Like I said, watch out for some of these other videos that I'm going to be producing where we really do more of a deep dive into these other tabs. But if you have any questions, of course, I'm always here to help if you need my help. If you need immediate support and it's more of a technical question regarding Megaphone, feel free to hit up Megaphone support. And like I said, they're amazing. And we're both here for you. So thanks so much for watching.